Hey there, beautiful people. It's Coach Mike here, and I am your health coach, strength coach, educator, motivator, bad jokes, raising hopes, don't let it happen, make it happen, Patty Daddy. I'm coming at you with a Mindset Monday on this first Friday of the week, and this week we're going to talk about changing your identity to change your life. So, gonna get a little bit dark here for a second, um, and just stay with me. Don't jump off right away just because I'm gonna get dark. But a little story. All right, so say you get shot in the shoulder and you leave the bullet in there long term. What's going to happen? So you're either going to bleed out or you're going to get an infection and die. Okay, pretty grim. Now, if you find the bullet and you pull it out, you clean the wound, you stitch it up, you'll be just fine in time. Right? A little bit dark, I know. But what you're probably thinking, why am I telling you this? Well, this can be related to your life and my life. We all have these traumas in life that cause these different wounds, and those wounds end up they shape us in certain ways. They help create our personalities. They help our create our belief systems. They help create our habits. Um, they they shape our lives and our levels of happiness essentially until we address them. So let's take my example. I'm gonna give you a little deep dive into a little bit of my story. So I grew up uh, an anxious and shy teenager that just uh, didn't feel great about myself. And I used alcohol to quiet the anxiety and to feel more outgoing and more sociable. And this ended up becoming a problem as I got older. And alcohol kind of became a dependency and caused a lot of problems in my life. Now, some might say or consider that, or consider me an alcoholic in that situation, but I do not. When I drink, definitely I drink alcoholically. I'm alcoholic when I drink, but when I'm sober, I am not an alcoholic. Um, the same way that if somebody was type 2 diabetic and they got their blood sugar under control, they would be no longer diabetic. They wouldn't go around telling people, hey, I'm diabetic, but you're not really diabetic. And they would continue to not be diabetic as long as there was a progressive maintenance program in place and that maintenance program was adhered to and practiced on a regular basis. So you're probably thinking now, well, how does this relate to the gunshot wound? What are you talking about? Well, let me explain. So the gunshot wound or the bullet in the shoulder is emotional trauma. So this would be the emotional trauma in my situation that I suffered, and this trauma is nobody's fault. It's just life. It's circumstances that happen in life, and we have to take responsibility for them. While we might be want to play the victim, we can't. But for me, the alcohol was a band-aid, and that went over the bullet wound. And the longer I left the bullet wound or the bullet in there, the more infected I got, and the more I was bleeding out. But it wasn't until I pulled the alcohol from my life that I was able to then close the wound, and clean the wound, and begin to stitch it up. And for me, I needed 4 stitches in order to heal, and those 4 stitches were emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual sutures. And when I began to develop myself in these 4 areas, the the infection and the wound began to heal, and it only heals from the inside out. That's how the body works, but that's how our mental health and our change and our life works as well. We can only heal from the inside out. There's never an external source that's going to cure us. There's no external source that's going to fix and heal the wounds. It has to come from within, and it did for me. But one of the biggest hurdles that I came across was that I was a drinker, right? I couldn't see myself living without booze. I couldn't see myself living without alcohol. I identified as a drinker, uh, and I was acting in accordance with my beliefs about who I was. I was acting in alignment with the story that I had told myself since I was 15 or so. But it wasn't until I became aware and I recognized the wound that I could begin to do something about it. Now, with that awareness, I chose to shed my old identity, and I began to develop myself in those 4 areas of healing. It was only then that I developed myself in these 4 areas that I began to change. My mental, my emotional, my physical and spiritual health changed. My work life changed. My relationships changed. I was happy, all because I made the decision to change my mindset about who I was, all because I changed my identity. I stitched up the wounds of the past with the 4 sutures, and my life began to heal. Now the key for me was to develop all 4 areas. I didn't leave any areas out. If I had left one out, then the wound would still be open and it'd be subject to infection. But when we develop, or at least for me, when I developed all 4 areas, and I continue to develop all 4 areas consistently, I am now grateful, I am joyous, I am free. I don't have to worry about trying to use external sources to make me feel better. Only I can make me feel truly better. So my call to action is to encourage you to figure out what your wounds are. Figure out why you're using certain things as a crutch to get you through the day. Are you smoking? Are you drinking? Are you overeating? Are you how do you identify it, and what is it that you need to do to change your identity to become the person that you want to be? And you have to be blatantly honest with yourself, be blatantly honest with those around you, and figure out what it is. What is that hard thing that you need to do to change in your life to become the person that you want to be? So that's all I got for you, folks. Hope you have a fantastic day. Peace and love. Change your attitude, raise your standards, and you will change your life.